Introducing a completely redesigned experience that you can sense. And that senses you. The new Dell Latitude laptops bring your work closer to you.
Tonight, airport exposure, contact tracers racing to find anyone at risk after a baby with measles was taken on a plane. New calls to yank out trees with dangerous overhanging branches. Jailed Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny dead. Western leaders blame Vladimir Putin. Taylor Swift dazzles 96,000 fans in her record-breaking first Australian concert. And a festival free-for-all. Get all the fringe benefits without paying a cent.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Will McDonald.
Good evening. A 1-year-old baby remains in the Women's and Children's Hospital tonight after contracting measles from an outbreak overseas. All right, Shannon McDonald, is there a broader risk to the public?
Well, Will, authorities say there's no need for panic, but they are taking this case very seriously. The alert centres around a Qantas flight from Melbourne to Adelaide on Thursday. The child and its family had been travelling overseas and returned to Australia via Dubai. Anyone on board flight QF 685 may have been exposed. SA Health has also issued alerts for Adelaide Airport at this time Thursday afternoon and the Women's and Children's Hospital Emergency Department from 10 that night to 4 on Friday morning. This is the first case of measles for the state this year, and so far no further cases have been detected, but it follows recent outbreaks overseas in Asia, including India, the Middle East and Europe. Health experts warning anyone of any age can become infected.
And of course, if you've got an adult who's got an impaired immune system, so they could be getting treatment for cancer or having autoimmune disease. So in that sense, it's just like COVID-19. These are the really at-risk vulnerable group.
It takes about 10 days for the first signs of the infection to appear and 14 days for a rash to develop. A person can be infectious for weeks and could spread the disease before showing any signs of infection. Anyone who thinks they may have contracted measles should isolate and contact SA Health.
Shannon McDonald, thank you. A scooter rider is tonight fighting for life in hospital with critical head injuries after colliding with a car at Mile End South. Emergency crews were called to the corner of James Congdon and Sir Donald Bradman Drive just before 1 p.m. James Congdon Drive was reduced to one lane, causing significant delays. It reopened later this afternoon. The car driver wasn't injured in the crash. Police are hunting a firebug responsible for setting a pine plantation alight in the Adelaide Hills. CFS crews were called to the site of Peacock Road in Oakbank just after 2 p.m, responding to reports of a grass fire. 5,000 square metres was burnt before fire crews managed to contain the blaze with the help of aerial bombers. The calls are increasing tonight for an urgent audit of overhanging gum trees posing a threat to drivers on Adelaide's busiest roads. One MP is demanding councils go so far as to yank them out to avoid further tragedies from falling branches.
Towering over Goodwood Road, Frank Pangello says this is a disaster waiting to happen.
The decision to put gum trees in the middle of our main roads is a stupid one.
But not uncommon. This one leaning out on the city fringes, others lining the intersection of two of our busiest roads. All of them a risk, according to the independent MP. He wants the government and councils to urgently cut back or cut down ageing gums overhanging our roads.
It won't be too long before one comes down and collects a car and causes some damage and we have another tragedy.
His calls just a fortnight after a falling tree branch killed 22-year-old Olivia Suryo in the Adelaide Parklands. Days later, a gum tree branch narrowly missed a Kensington Gardens woman. And in 2020, Judy Ditter was killed when a tree branch fell on her car as she was driving. The government says responsibility of managing trees falls to councils.
The powers are there for councils to act and act swiftly where they do see a danger.
There are also calls for an urgent audit of trees of concern that pose a risk to drivers. Adelaide City Council declined to comment while an investigation is underway into the Parkland's death earlier this month.
This is a tragic once-off, and there should be an inquiry and there should be a response. But we also don't want to see a dramatic overreach that represents a panicked response that isn't in the community's interests.
Plant trees, but plant the right ones and plant them in the right spots.
Beth Excel, 9 News.
Western leaders, including our Prime Minister, are blaming Russia's Vladimir Putin for the death of his outspoken political opponent, Alexei Navalny. Russian prison officials say the former opposition leader, who survived being poisoned in 2020, collapsed after a walk inside the Arctic jail where he'd been detained.
Alexei Navalny on Thursday during a video link appearance in a Russian court. Looking thinner than before, but otherwise well, even joking with the judge and prosecutor for them to send him money to help him pay his fines. It's the last time he'd be seen. 24 hours later, the 47-year-old was dead. According to a federal prison spokesperson, the Russian opposition leader felt unwell after a walk at the remote polar wolf penal colony in the Arctic Circle, where he was serving a 19-year sentence. He lost consciousness and medical staff couldn't revive him. Condemnation from world leaders swift and direct.
Putin had him poisoned, he had him arrested, he had him prosecuted for fabricated crimes, he sentenced him to prison, he was held in isolation.
We hold Vladimir Putin and the Russian regime responsible for this death in prison.
No one should be in any doubt about the dreadful nature of Putin's regime in Russia after what has just happened.
Just hours after learning of his death, Navalny's wife Yulia bravely took to the stage at a security summit in Munich.
I
thought for a long time whether I should come out here or fly straight to my children. But then I thought what Alexei would do in my place, she says. Russian state media reporting President Vladimir Putin had been advised of his death. It comes less than a month before Russia's presidential election. Navalny has long been considered President Putin's most outspoken critic and most powerful opponent, campaigning hard against the Kremlin. In 2020, with his popularity on the rise, the father of two was poisoned. German doctors say with Novichok, the same nerve agent used to target former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter in the UK 2 years earlier. The Kremlin rejected claims it was behind it. Months later, while still recovering, Navalny shocked many by returning home to Moscow. He was detained on arrival and wouldn't taste freedom again, ultimately jailed for extremism and embezzlement. He recorded a video message for his supporters in the event he'd someday be killed.
It's very simple, not give up.
He was brave, he was principled, he was dedicated to building a Russia where the rule of law existed and where it applied to everybody.
Reaction to this has been fast and it's being seen all over. Here outside the Russian embassy in London, a large crowd of Mr. Navalny's supporters has gathered to send a message to Moscow.
There are many people in Russia who still support him. There's so many people in here who support him. We can see the amount of people who are here.
Impassioned protesting for some. In Moscow, they were asked not to. They laid flowers for a man dubbed by many Russia's fiercest advocate for democracy. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
The number of asylum seekers found on Australian shores after a boat arrived in WA has climbed to more than 40. Peter Dutton is tonight stepping up his attacks on the Albanese government, defying a plea from the nation's border security boss for unity.
The Prime Minister handling this precious cargo with care as he faces accusations of loosening his grip on Australia's borders.
The fact is that we've got a weak Prime Minister when it comes to our borders. He's allowed this boat through.
We do not seek to politicise national security issues.
Around 30 asylum seekers were detained by Border Force after arriving on a remote stretch of the WA coast near Broome, seeking refuge in the town of Beagle Bay after 5 days at sea and a blistering 35-kilometre trek inland.
I don't want to go back to Pakistan. They're treating us like a human being.
But Mohammed won't have a choice.
People who attempt to arrive here by boat will not settle here.
Thumbs up from a second group of asylum seekers who also turned up near Beagle Bay. The political battle over borders rearing its head, the opposition leader claiming the government's handling of released immigration detainees is giving the green light to people smugglers.
They're very savvy. They look at every word and every action of the government, and if they see vulnerabilities, they will exploit them. And that's exactly what has happened here.
The head of Operation Sovereign Borders delivering a thinly veiled swipe to Mr Dutton about the risk of public commentary, declaring the mission remains the same. Any alternate narrative will be exploited by criminals. Despite this warning, Peter Dutton today doubling down on his attacks over immigration policy, showing he believes it's a vulnerability of the Albanese government. Amanda Kopp, 9 News.
Dressed in their glittery finest, 96,000 fans welcomed Taylor Swift back to Australia last night for what turned out to be the biggest concert of her career. And one little Swiftie will never forget her close encounter with the singer.
A dazzling MCG filled to the brim with Swifties.
Welcome to the Eras Tour!
Even by the pop star's standards, this was a momentous occasion.
This is the biggest show that we have done on this tour or any tour I have ever done.
96,000 fans from far and wide sung their hearts out. In a 3-hour journey through Taylor's various musical eras. In the crowd, 9-year-old Milana, plucked from her chair, which was toward the back of the floor seats. The grade 4 student couldn't believe her luck when she was ushered to the stage.
There were so many people there and they chose me.
At the time, her mum didn't understand what was about to unfold.
I actually thought we were in trouble. I was quite concerned, but as we approached the stage and we got closer, I knew something good was about to happen, so we were all quite shaky and nervous.
Milana's sister got Taylor's guitar pick. They handed Taylor a friendship bracelet in return.
Pretty emotional, because this is my first ever concert. That was my first ever concert.
Now Milana is a proud caretaker of this hand-signed felt hat.
I have this little lamp and I put it on there. Now it looks like a little person.
It's such a party here in Milana's household. The girls were singing just like this when we arrived, and I dare say they're going to keep dancing pretty much the same way for the rest of the weekend. Taylor Swift's last visit was in 2018, so it's no wonder the 6-year wait resulted in data overload. Optus estimates their customers uploaded close to 500,000 photos at the G last night. Those outside the gates put on a brave face despite not having tickets. Another surprise gesture from the megastar with a generous donation to the food bank charity.
We've already seen some of the Swifties following Taylor's lead and making donations as well.
It's now 1 down, 2 to go before the tour moves to Sydney. Madeline Spark, 9 News.
Well, Emily Rice is at the MCG this evening where Swifties are gathering for Tay-Tay's second concert. She filed this report a short time ago.
Well, the love story between Taylor Swift, Swifties and Australia shows no sign of abating. They are absolutely pumped to get in there tonight. How is everybody feeling? And I've got to say, I have seen just about as many fans from Adelaide and South Australia as I have from around the rest of the country. So excited to get in there for Taylor's second concert. And whether you love her or not, it is great to see all of these young people embracing a female pop icon. Let's go, guys! Yeah! Back to you.
Well, Donald Trump made his name as a businessman, but tonight has been barred from running any business in New York for 3 years, and he's been fined nearly $600 million. A US judge confirming the presidential hopeful has committed fraud, a decision Donald Trump described as unconstitutional and a witch hunt.
For months, Donald Trump has been fighting for his name and reputation in his hometown. Today, the state of New York delivered a devastating blow.
Donald Trump may have authored the art of the deal, but he perfected the art of the steal.
Judge Arthur Engeron fining the former president more than $540 million, barring him from running a business for 3 years and blocked from applying for loans from any New York financial institution.
He ruled against me before he even got the case. He ruled against me, said I was guilty. He didn't know what I was guilty of.
His 2 adult sons ordered to pay more than $6 million each, all for overvaluing Trump's assets and exaggerating his net worth by more than $3.4 billion in order to obtain better loan and insurance terms.
My father built the skyline of New York City, and this is the thanks he gets?
The judge said Trump and his son's refusal to acknowledge fault borders on pathological, stating the defendants are incapable of admitting the error of their ways and that they will continue to engage in fraudulent behaviour unless judicially restrained.
There were no victims because the banks made a lot of money. They made $100 million.
Today's ruling, the culmination of an 11-week trial where Donald Trump was both an angry spectator and defendant.
It's an unconstitutional witch hunt.
The only saving grace for Trump, Judge Engoron did not order the dissolution of his business, saving him from corporate death. Trump will appeal the hefty financial penalty, which increases with interest, but he'll have to come up with the money or secure a bond within 30 days. The ruling won't render him bankrupt, but it may force him to rethink drama in the courtroom as a path to victory. In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Adelaide has been transformed into a sea of colour as Fringe fever hits the city. This year's event has more free experiences than ever before, making it easier for families to enjoy the fun without the financial pain.
Abuzz with excitement, 250,000 people descend on the East End, drawn in by the colour, costumes and characters.
The Fringe is well and truly up and running.
Adelaide's biggest street party signalling the start of the Fringe Festival, a 5-week celebration of art and culture.
This is beautiful, beautiful venue, great wine, music. Yeah, the Fringe is awesome.
It's wonderful and it's so much fun in here for everybody.
This year's lineup featuring more free events than ever before, promising fun without the worry of expense. The program has around 100 free experiences in total, including exhibitions, theatre and live music performances.
And we see it all, we say we were blind.
Having those free events makes it perfect for families, people who are worried about cost of living, to come and enjoy the best time in South Australia.
He comes in and he can burn out some energy and I don't have to spend any money on it.
Really good, yeah, and helpful for people who are definitely struggling.
Despite the cost of living crisis, ticket sales have risen. More than 300,000 already sold, up 7% on this time last year.
It was a huge excitement last year to be the first festival in Australia to sell more than 1 million tickets. That was incredible, and to think that we might be able to break it this year is fantastic.
The festival runs till March 17. Michaela Kamarek, 9 News.
And the Fringe crowd really is building tonight. Chelsea, Carey, terrific conditions for festival goers.
Yes, Will, and I've got some very cute friends joining me tonight. We have absolutely beautiful conditions. Really couldn't ask for much better than this. It's currently sitting on still around 30 degrees. We have this lovely breeze and mostly clear skies across Adelaide. Thousands are here at the Garden of Unearthly Delights tonight, grabbing dinner, ready to catch a show and soak up the Fringe atmosphere. And plenty of sunshine in store for Fringe goers tomorrow too, and for much of the week. Some balmy nights as well. That's what we like to see on a Fringe forecast, but I'll have the full weather details just a little later, Will.
Great stuff, Chelsea. Thank you. Now for a look ahead to sport with Corey Norris. Corey, there's an injury scare at Port Adelaide.
Yeah, Will, boom recruiter Sava Radagalia left the Powers intra-club early, and later in sport we'll tell you why and what impact, if any, it'll have on his season. Also, a comprehensive review of the Crows hit out in Port Lincoln, and is Isaac Rankin set for a new role? And Carey to the rescue as the Redbacks dig deep at Adelaide Oval.
Thanks, Corey. See you soon. Next on 9 News, an unexpected visitor on a Saturday morning. A hot air balloon makes an emergency landing in a backyard. And a backyard transformed for a southern suburbs family thanks to the Little Heroes Foundation. A 16-year-old fan on her way to a Taylor Swift concert has been killed and her 10-year-old sister critically injured. Their car collided with a semi-trailer near Dubbo, northwest of Sydney on Thursday night. The girls and their mother were driving from the Gold Coast to Melbourne with plans to see another Swift concert in Sydney on their way home next week. Residents in Canberra watched on in shock this morning as a hot air balloon was forced to make an emergency landing in a suburban backyard. The balloon was seen dangerously close to rooftops, but the pilot managed to bring it down safely.
The people in the basket, all the passengers were quite elderly. They were it was a family celebrating an 80th birthday. They seemed a little bit shaken, but all okay.
The operating company says no one was injured and there were no reports of damage to any properties. Prime defence real estate across the country could be sold off to raise money for new equipment and upgrades to military bases. The Sydney Morning Herald reports Defence is searching sites within its massive real estate portfolio that is worth more than $34 billion.
The Coalition will not support the Albanese government's fire sale of defence assets because they've spent money everywhere else and they've now run out of money, so they either increase taxes or they start attacking defence.
The Prime Minister says surplus Commonwealth land is occasionally sold off in order to build more housing. An Australian baseballer gunned down in the US has been honoured with his own playing field in Melbourne. Chris Lane was in Oklahoma on a sports scholarship when he was randomly shot by three teenagers back in 2013.
He was just a basic good kid. He didn't have pretensions about his ability. He knew where he stood with the sport. He knew where he stood in life.
10 years and more than $100,000 later, the Chris Lane Field will become Australia's first Little League batting ground. Pop superstar Pink has also touched down in Australia, playing the first concert of her tour in Brisbane last night. The wet weather didn't stop fans, with up to 50,000 watching the singer's summer carnival show. Pink will also play another two shows in Queensland before heading down to Melbourne. A Happy Valley mother and her three kids have returned home from a holiday to find their backyard completely renovated. Local children's charity Little Heroes organising the makeover so Renee Saska's kids, who live with childhood dementia, can enjoy their time with their mum.
A reaction that's priceless. This backyard makeover, a surprise for Renee Staska and her three kids.
Just seeing the space in a way that they can use it is just so amazing.
Oh, check it out. By the 36ers. Whoa, Austin.
Hudson, Holly and Austin all live with childhood dementia. From the trampoline to the basketball court, their new backyard helps them enjoy just being kids.
It's a terminal diagnosis, so children usually develop normally until a certain point and then they start regressing and losing all their skills and body functions and memories.
Children's charity Little Heroes saw 9 News' story when we first met Renee, prompting CEO Chris McDermott to get involved.
This is from 18 months ago, watching your news on a Sunday afternoon. I was made aware of childhood dementia. I'd never heard of it before, and of Renee Staska here at Happy Valley and her 3 children.
The director of Clem Homes says Renee's story also resonated with him, so he sprung into action along with other generous businesses.
I had a brother who passed away with muscular dystrophy, and it's very similar to the childhood dementia, where muscle wasting disease, and he lived till he was 19. Heard the spill that Renee's going to go through, and unfortunately it hit home.
Most children living with childhood dementia die before the age of 18. Little Heroes is hoping this makeover will allow Renee to make the most of the years she has with her kids.
She's got as tough a job in her hand as the kids have, and to see her crack a smile and with that glint in her eye, it's a pretty special moment.
They've changed our lives and it's all for the better, and I'm so grateful.
Josephine Shannon, 9 News.
Yeah, well done to everyone involved. So good. The royal revelation. Next on 9 News, Prince Harry speaks about his dash home to see his father, King Charles, after his cancer diagnosis. And the prime suspect in Madeleine McCann's suspicious disappearance fronts court. Two teenagers have been charged over the shooting at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade that killed 1 person and injured 22 others. The pair was charged on gun-related and resisting arrest offences. The police are expecting more charges as their investigation continues. One victim of the shooting is still in a critical condition. A firefighter has been killed in the American state of Virginia after a house exploded. Crews had been responding to a gas leak when the home was torn apart by the blast. 9 colleagues and 2 civilians were injured. Prince Harry has opened up about his father's cancer diagnosis and his trip home to see the King. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex visited Invictus Games athletes in Canada, where Harry made a startling citizenship revelation.
Prince Harry in a snowy Whistler, speaking candidly about a seemingly thawing relationship with his father.
The fact that I was able to get on a plane and go and see him and spend any time with him, I'm grateful for that.
An illness in the family can have a galvanizing or sort of reunifying effect for a family.
Absolutely.
Is that possible in this case?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Harry opening up about the King's cancer diagnosis in an interview with Good Morning America, but refusing to be drawn on the seriousness of the monarch's condition.
What's sort of your outlook on his health?
That stays between me and him.
Harry and Meghan hand in hand met with Invictus Games athletes near Vancouver, where the competition the Prince established will be held next year.
Here's the 25.
The Duke trying his hand at skeleton sledding.
Oh, man. That was awesome. Good.
Well done. Revealing he has plans to go back to the UK in the near future. But the fifth in line to the throne made it very clear he's very much at home with Meghan and their children in America.
How are you enjoying your time living in the US?
It's amazing. I love every single day.
Would you think about becoming a citizen?
I have considered it, yeah.
Jessica Millward, 9 News.
The prime suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann has been seen for the first time since being connected to the case. Convicted rapist Christian B is facing unrelated sex assault charges in a German court, alleged to have occurred in Portugal between 2000 and 2017. He's denied involvement in Madeleine's case, but has been under investigation for the past few years. A person driving a stolen tow truck has used it as a battering ram while leading police on a chase through the US state of Maryland. The pursuit lasted just over an hour, with the driver smashing through 11 vehicles and 3 law enforcement cars before being arrested. From Kylie Minogue's hot pants to Hugh Jackman's shirt. Ahead on 9 News, costumes worn by Australia's very own showcase in a brand new exhibition. And a moose on the loose causes chaos at Costco. How the situation unfolded next. If you keep forgetting to take your blood pressure medication, you're in luck. A new clinical trial by the University of Chicago has found a single injection of a drug called zilebesiran can significantly lower blood pressure. The study found that one dose every 6 months was able to improve levels compared to a placebo. A nationwide call out tonight to help combat a growing sense of social isolation and a feeling of being unheard. Creativity Australia's With One Voice program is welcoming more members to its inclusive and diverse network of choirs.
They say sing like there's nobody listening. And live like it's heaven on earth. For members of this With One Voice choir, their weekly harmonies are a slice of heaven.
I love the endorphins you get from singing and just seeing other people and seeing everybody happy and bright. And I just love singing.
Philomena McDonald is choir coordinator.
It welcomes everybody, which is wonderful.
It's a diverse community and diversion is very important.
Melville Mirando has been a With One Voice choir member for 15 years. What do you love about coming to the choir?
The inclusiveness, the acceptance of who you are and not what you are.
There's something special about being with the community of all different ages and cultures, as we said.
There are more than 1,000 singers in 25 With One Voice choirs across the country, like this one in Ashburton. They are breaking down barriers, promoting inclusion and acceptance, and forging friendships like that between Jeanette and Damien.
I've been coming here since 2016. It was thanks to Jeanette that told me about the choir, and I've loved it ever since.
Jeanette adores the weekly catch-ups with Damien, supper served after singing, and choir conductor Kim.
Kim makes me so happy because she is the most wonderful girl.
That feeling of just togetherness and like the shared fabric of humanity, just enjoying singing together, is something that I really get helped by, and I can see how it's impacting others, and seeing them happy makes me happy.
We like to dress up to come, don't we, Rachel?
Yes, we do.
Mother and daughter, Jenny and Rachel Barago.
We love our tiaras, Joe.
They say the choir is for everyone.
You don't need to be checked first to see if we can sing. We all just find out that we can sing.
I got told at a very young age that I can't sing, and I came here one day and I never left. I can sing.
A Swinburne University study shows 98% of With One Voice participants experienced less stress, 91% improved social bonds, and 66% feel less depressed.
It makes me feel so good, brightens the day. Bruddens any day.
Jo Hall, 9 News.
Well, the stars of the entertainment world wear the costumes, but now their costumes are the stars of the show in a new exhibition. Some big names have donated their big collections for all to see.
They were the gold hot pants made famous by this song. Kylie's costumes among the thousands in the Australian Performing Arts Collection, which spans many decades and several genres.
We collect under circus, opera, theatre, music and dance. They're sort of our big subject headings.
Many of the items are donated by the artists themselves.
That's a very early marsupial dress. A marsupial means having a pocket, of course, and this has a lovely koala pocket.
Everywhere you look, there is endless star power. A gown worn by Dame Joan Sutherland, a shirt that once covered Hugh Jackman, Peter Allen's flair for colour is also there.
Obviously the Hawaiian shirts are it's a bit of a signature thing with him.
A big part of the collection is conservation.
To make sure that everything is looked after and it's in a stable condition, that means that we can actually share it and make sure that it's going to be safe.
Costumes like these might ordinarily remain in a performer's wardrobe or in a warehouse or even get lost, but collections like these give them new life and allow fans to get up close and personal to a piece of the star they love. It's the collection with heart. Alan Ruskell, 9 News.
Well, some Gold Coast Swifties were left seeing red at the airport today after their Virgin flight to Melbourne was delayed. The airline telling passengers their flight was pushed back due to a Telstra outage in Canberra, where their allocated plane was arriving from, and they wouldn't be touching down in Melbourne until at least 5 p.m. today.
I couldn't believe the one day of the year when we really needed them, and it's been a bit disappointing.
The fans were left, of course, with no choice but to shake it off in order to make it in time for their 6:20 show at the MCG. Let's hope they do make it. All right, a woman in Alaska has attempted to bribe a moose with sweet potatoes after it started going through a shopping trolley. The wild animal had to be moved on by workers from the nearby Costco in Anchorage because it was blocking people from going in and out. Rangers there have noticed an increase in moose encounters, with recent snow forcing them to look for other food sources. All right, Corey Norris is here with sport. A star crow set for a new role.
Yeah, Isaac Rankin, he is one of the game's best small forwards, Will, but he's about to be thrust into the midfield. Up next, we'll dissect the Crows' intra-club hit-out in Port Lincoln. Also, an injury scare at Alberton. Asava Radaglia forced to sit out the second half. And after turning his back on the Crows' offer, Red Dog heads to the Groomers.
Intuitive, capable, and above all, intelligent. The Ford Escape is fearlessly designed and makes every day effortless.
Hello again. Port Adelaide is playing down fears of a knee injury to recruit Asava Radaglia. The key defender didn't play the second half of yesterday's intra-club match at Alberton, with the Power insisting he'll be ready for Friday's hit-out against the Crows.
Banged up, bandaged and bruised. Port Adelaide players didn't hold back in their first official hit-out.
It's a little bit more intensity than what we've been having in match play at training.
That saw Asava Radaglia's day end early. His first outing in power colours, finishing in casuals.
We're not overly concerned, just a little pinch in his knee. We expect him to be okay for next week. Whether or not we roll him out next week will be up to the medical team.
Todd Marshall also sidelined and in discomfort following an awkward landing in this contest. But the 25-year-old returned a short time later, shrugging off any injury concerns. Charlie Dixon also looked proppy, the luckless veteran racing the clock with round one just a month away.
Had a lean couple of weeks, so just been kind of running laps and getting some fitness space in. So thought he played okay. He competed really well, got knocked around a few times.
But positive news for Mitch Georgiades, priming for an early season return following his ACL injury.
He looks free, doesn't he? Yeah, doesn't. And often you'll see guys that are a little bit timid to run or to move, change direction, but he's shown that he can do all that really well. Yeah, and we'll just keep stepping up how many times he gets himself into big contests with dense numbers.
Former Tiger Ivan Soldo impressed in the ruck as he looks to lock down the #1 role over fellow recruit Jordan Sweet. No surprises, Zach Butters had some moments of brilliance, while Jason Horne-Francis looks to take another step up.
He hasn't had that for the last 2 years, and he's still shown what he can, throughout the year. So this year, we're expecting big things. He's expecting big things of himself.
Emma Henderson, 9 News.
Meanwhile, the Crows got through their hit out in Port Lincoln with a clean bill of health. Young forward Riley Thilthorpe was one of the most impressive. Further evidence the 21-year-old is set for a breakout season. Pack stands and not a spare car park, with Crows fans on the Eyre Peninsula embracing the rare treat.
The most pleasing thing today is we got to put on a bit of a show for our fans, and looks like everyone got through unscathed.
But not everything. This windscreen copped a battering from a Riley Thilthorpe goal, although the young owner just laughed it off, a moment he'll never forget. And it wasn't the only impact the former #2 draft pick was having. Thilthorpe's contested work was a standout. He booted 3 goals up forward and was also impressive when he went into the ruck.
Riley's been really fortunate that he's had some great battles with some of our backmen. You can throw Tex, Fogg, Lockie Gallant into that mix as well, Chris Burgess as well. They compete really well against our backs, which makes them better, and hopefully from here on in we can compete really well against all our opposition that we come up against.
The usual suspects were busy. Lockie Murphy and Josh Rochelle were dangerous around goal. So too Isaac Rankin, who started in the midfield, with Van Berlo revealing it's where he'll spend much more time this season.
We've certainly had Isaac around the footy a lot more throughout the summer, and we certainly see the strengths that he gives us around the ball. Centre bounce is one of them, around stoppage is another, so we've certainly worked on his game in that way, and I'm sure you'll see him around the footy more than what we did last year.
Top draft pick Daniel Curtin looked right at home in the back six and is on track for a round 1 debut. The skipper Jordan Dawson was outstanding through the middle, further proof he's determined to not only back up his All-Australian season but take his game and team to greater heights. It heats up even more on Friday, with the Crows heading into enemy territory for a battle with the Power at Alberton.
It's hard when you're playing against yourselves all pre-season. We say it's a bit like dancing with your sister. It can be a bit awkward sometimes.
I'm sure it is. Bring on the real stuff. Well, Essendon's Mason Redman has put his teammates on notice ahead of the new season. The South Australian defender, who turned down a lucrative offer to come home, hopes a new look on and off the field will bring a change to the Bombers.
Essendon's recent finals record has defender Mason Redman tearing his hair out, but the man affectionately known as Red Dog is buzzing ahead of the 2024 season.
I feel like we've got the cattle in the shed, so now it's time to bring it on the football field and put good performances in on game day.
Redman has played 2 finals without success and has made no secret of his frustration, last week declaring enough is enough for Brad Scott's men.
I've definitely noticed a bigger shift towards continual improvement every day. As far as I'm concerned, it means nothing at this stage. We haven't played games, and until we start doing that and performing on Fridays and Saturdays, that's where the measurement will be taken.
The 26-year-old was a favourite at the club's family day.
Number 27, Mason Redman!
After turning his back on a monster offer from Adelaide to stay with Essendon on a 5-year deal. He'll join recruit Ben Mackay in a revamped Bombers backline. If the Eagles' final intra-club hit-out is anything to go by, top draft pick Harley Reid looks set to live up to the hype this season. Fellow draftee Clay Hall was cleared of damage to his knee after being crunched by Elliot Yeo. Nat Yannidis, 9 News.
Well, Australia's women's cricketers are closing in on a big multi-format series win over South Africa. The Aussies need 3 wickets for victory in the Test match after Ash Gardner claimed the breakthrough on day 3.
And then she's got the wicket, Ash Gardner. She has been so persistent.
Good catch. Meanwhile, Will Pucovski has made a successful return following his latest concussion scare. The Victorian is 69 not out at stumps on day 2 of the Shield clash against New South Wales. Well, Alex Carey has put the Redbacks in a pretty strong position on day 2 of their Shield clash against Queensland at Adelaide Oval. Carey belted 10 fours and was well on his way to a 7th first-class century when, unfortunately, on 90, he had a bit of a brain fade.
Stepping away and paddling it straight to the keeper.
Well, that's idiocy. I'm sorry, but that is probably... It's just such a disappointing way to end a fine knock at 90. There's no need for that, and Alex Carey is a Test player. I don't know what he's thinking there.
Yeah, hard to argue. At stumps, the Redbacks were all out for 232 with a lead of 205 runs. Well, Adelaide United are currently locked in a battle with Sydney FC, and the hosts drew first blood after this costly turnover in the 27th minute.
1-0 Sydney FC. Ruthlessly dispatched.
The score still 1-0. The Reds are desperate for a win with just 2 victories from their past 10 matches. Ange Postecoglou has dismissed rumours linking him to the vacant Liverpool job. The Tottenham boss is one of the favourites to replace Jurgen Klopp, but the Aussie wouldn't buy into speculation. He's on the Reds' shortlist.
I may be on a shortlist. Yeah, no, I don't think I want to say anything about that because I don't think that's ever going to enter my sort of brain space, so-called chat. I mean, really, no, it's not no of interest to me. Thanks.
Tottenham face Wolves in the Premier League tomorrow morning. Well, golf fans were concerned after Tiger Woods was forced to withdraw from the Genesis Invitational just 6 holes into the second round. The 48-year-old was seen with his head buried in his hands as he was driven off the course in what was his first competitive round in 10 months.
The reason Tiger is withdrawing, the word we're getting from him, is that it's an illness. He's not feeling well.
It's since been revealed that Woods was suffering from flu-like symptoms and dehydration. And finally, tonight, after his 4th round Australian Open exit, Alex de Minaur has earned revenge on Andrei Rublev, overcoming the Russian in a tight 3 sets in the quarterfinals of the Rotterdam Open.
Another top 5 victory for Alex de Minaur.
The Demon, who turns 25 tomorrow, will face Grigor Dimitrov in a birthday showdown for a spot in the final. Good luck to young Alex.
All right, thanks very much, Corey Norris. Well, a few hot days ahead. Stay with us. Chelsea Carey has the latest weather next.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Laws, weekdays on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Switch on a Daikin Alira X split system with advanced streamer technology to remove more than 99% of harmful indoor air pollutants and surround yourself with cleaner air this summer. Daikin, perfecting the air.
Well, hello again. We're here at the Garden of Unearthly Delights, and I've got a few sweet friends who are very keen to say hello to you all at home. It is a beautiful night here. It's still sitting on 29 degrees. We have this lovely breeze as well. Today we had a top of almost 33 in the city. It's been sunny right across Adelaide. The northern suburbs really feeling the brunt of the heat. 35 at Mawson Lakes. In the south, Noarlunga made 31. Glenelg topped out at 28. A few places cracked 40 degrees through the outback today, including Udnadatta, Mari and Coopabedi. Port Augusta got close with 38. Renmark 36, but closer to the coast we have the benefit of those fresher winds. So Hindmarsh Island topped out at 23. Now Adelaide hasn't seen any rain in February so far, and we're going to be left waiting a little longer. A ridge of high pressure is keeping us in this dry, stable weather pattern. But up in the Northern Territory you can see that low there, and that's bringing heavy rain to parts of the NT this weekend. In the east, some cloud around Sydney tomorrow. And if you're heading to Melbourne for Taylor Swift, well, it's looking good for the concert. Dry conditions with a top of 23. Back home, mostly a hot and dry day across our north and west. Up to 41 at Coopabedi and Roxby Downs. Clare 36. A little fresher around Port Lincoln with 27. 27 for Kings Coast 2. Victor Harbour, mild 23 with that sea breeze. But really feeling the heat through inland areas. So Renmark 38 tomorrow. And take note, we do have extreme fire danger conditions on the eastern Eyre Peninsula tomorrow. If you're cooling off by the water, locally southeasterly winds around 10 knots in the morning, with seas increasing to 1.5 metres in the afternoon. So across Adelaide, hot and mostly sunny conditions, very similar to today, with a bit of a breeze around at times. Heading for 35 at Elizabeth, 31 at Glenelg and Noarlunga. If you're in the hills, 30 at Mount Barker. Here in the city, cooling off tonight down to 15 degrees, and then tomorrow that mostly sunny top of 33. 34 on Monday, and then we're in this run of days with temperatures in the low to mid 30s, some balmy nights in the mix as well before cooling off next weekend. But great to see some balmy nights. That is perfect fringe weather.
It certainly is good for getting out and about. Chelsea, thank you. Finally, what's on 60 Minutes tomorrow night?
Thanks, Will. Tomorrow night...
from screaming out songs.
Were you afraid?
I thought it was gone.
To screaming in pain.
Came off, I collapsed.
The massive hit, Jimmy Barnes, didn't see coming.
I said to Jane, I don't think I'm going to make it this time.
I said, I think I'm going to die.
Plus, ignored for decades.
This is what we call a clue.
The startling evidence that could finally reveal
The injuries are very distinctive.
who murdered John Benet Ramsey.
Could this be the same person?
That's tomorrow night after Married. Back to you, Will.
Thanks, Amelia. That's all from the 9 News team for this Saturday. I'm Will McDonald. Have a great evening. Good night.